In the last 18 months, our business crossed $1 million in revenue, and I'm incredibly excited because it's the first time we've actually crossed that point. And in this video, I want to take you behind the scenes of exactly what we did to get to that level, as well as the 3 key breakpoints that actually stopped us from being able to achieve that in the past, and how you can kind of learn from our mistakes. So if you don't know me, my name's Jamie Atkinson. I'm the founder of needaguest.com alongside my business partner, Angel Tussey. And in 2022, I completely quit social media. What? Pulled the ripcord and went out completely. And ironically, 18 months later, after building a brand new business, it's one of the best decisions that I ever made. And so many business owners say to me, Jamie, I wish I could grow my business without having to show up on the social media hamster wheel. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Now, a lot of people say, Jamie, what is the thing that finally enabled you to scale and grow the business to the level that you're at? And the answer is growing out your hair.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
If you actually look at all the successful business owners, Alex Hormozi, Sam Ovens, they've all got long hair, and they had short hair before. So that's the secret. You can close this video and grow your hair out, and you'll make lots of money.
Just answer the question, okay? Please don't play with me right now.
But, you know, if we want to get a little bit more tactical than that, I can actually break it down for you. This is me and my cute mom on the beach in Tamarindo. I posted this in August of 2022, and it was a kind of what I call a cry for help post, where I basically was documenting what was going on at the time for me, and it was where this really big shift happened. So after the 12th of August, I basically decided to completely quit social media, and some really personal highlights for that time, you know, some really cool stuff that happened to me, which was great, is me and my partner broke up. I lost $330,000 of my money, you know, after tax, taken out in a crypto investment. And my appendix nearly burst, and they rushed me in an ambulance 3 hours to San Jose here in Costa Rica, where I live. And all of that happened in the space of 36 hours. And so obviously pretty intense, not super fun, makes sense why I did that really big post. And so in this video, I want to kind of take you behind the scenes of what happened after that, because there's been 3 really notable things that have happened in the years after when I quit social media for my business. And, you know, first of all, one, the really notable thing is we quit social media for the business. You know, we didn't post on our social profiles. We didn't use stories. We didn't use DMs and messages. We basically stepped away from social media completely and didn't use it. And in this video, I'll go through what we did instead to be able to get leads and make sales in a really consistent way without having to show up on social media, which was great. That's how I was able to grow my hair out long, not having to show up on social media. Nobody even knew I was growing it. So I got through that super awkward phase where I looked terrible. Number 2, I found my business partner, Angel. This is probably the most notable thing that happened to me. We came together in 2023. I became the joint owner of the Need a Guest group. And then in June of 2023, we decided to create a brand new business, and we just went all in on growing that together. And third, in the last 18 months, we've actually grown that business to over $1 million cash collected, and we've crossed $100,000 a month 2 times so far. And in the next 30 days, we're actively 5xing our marketing using what we call our leveraged acquisition channel. And I'm actually going to help you guys understand what that is and if it makes sense for you to do it, and help you understand really the 3 key breakpoints that we hit on the way to getting to this level in our business. So first of all, these 3 key breakpoints, number 1 is 10K a month, number 2, it's 30K a month, and number 3 is scaling to 100K. Now, the Podcast Profit Lab, it was a $1,000 course we sold. We priced it at $997, and we taught people how to launch a top 100 podcast in 30 days. And it was really successful. We did over $500,000 cash collected in the first 16 months inside of that business. And the first month I ever launched it, we hit 10K a month, and we never really came down from hitting 10K a month after that point. And so what I want to do is, if you haven't hit 10K a month yet, the good news is there isn't a lot of technicality that needs to go into this. The solution is really coming down to having a clear, note the word clear here is the most important thing, outcome and offer, as in you need people to understand what it is that you're selling, and it needs to be something that they're interested in. So my definition for a clear outcome and offer is that you need to have a clear and quantifiable end result that you can deliver for your prospects over a set amount of time. So if you say to somebody, I'm going to help you launch a YouTube channel in 90 days. That's clear. It's quantifiable. They're walking away with a YouTube channel in 90 days, and they know how long it's going to take. If you say, I'm going to help you lose weight in 60 days, or that's not very clear or quantifiable. I'm going to help you lose 10 pounds in the next 28 days, right? Clear, quantifiable end result. And so the trick here most of the time, guys, is that if people aren't buying your thing, it's either because the thing you're selling is not that attractive and there aren't already people buying it in the marketplace, or the thing that you're selling just isn't clear or quantifiable. And so one of the mistakes I see people make all the time when it comes to this, especially at this level, is they try and create something that's never been sold before. And the problem with that is that if it's never been sold before, there's no existing demand. And, you know, in business and marketing, it's really difficult, if not impossible, to create demand. You really can just channel existing demand. And what I mean by that is, you know, you don't want to be the person to invent a new type of food most of the time, right? If you're in the middle of a busy mall and, you know, people are coming through and you know, hey, people like sushi, people like hot dogs, people like roast dinners, and then right out of the blue, you're going to say, I'm going to invent this new food that's this scientific goo that tastes like strawberries, but it looks like, you know, a child snotted in your hand, right? There's not going to be a lot of demand for that because you invented it. And so one of the things I always say when you're looking at this is try and see if there are sellers in the marketplace already selling what it is that you want to sell. And, you know, if there isn't people actively trying to sell what you want to sell, it probably means there's not a market for it. And so a really good example of this is our current offer. We help people to get booked on podcasts with a view to actually turning those podcast listeners into clients. But that wasn't something we invented. There was a lot of people who were selling get booked on podcasts before we even entered the marketplace. Now, we did it with a different spin, a unique angle, but the core thing we're selling, getting booked on podcasts, there is existing sellers and therefore existing demand for this thing. And we just need to channel that demand instead of creating it. So if you're not at this level yet, I'm not going to go super deep here, but one of the strategies that's always worked really well for me, and this has happened time and time again, is what I call a 3-part strategy, which is one, you need a way to get traffic. So you want to tap into your warm audiences that you currently have access to. So a lot of people, from the efforts they've been putting into growing their business, either have an email list of some sort, you've built up some kind of social audience, you've got a phone full of contacts of people who might be interested, you've had sales calls with people in the past clients, past referrals. You basically want to have some type of warm audience, somebody that through some kind of affiliation already knows who you are. And that's where we want to get our traffic for this first 10K. We don't want to go and sell to cold audiences. The second thing that you want to do is when it comes to conversion, and this is one of the easiest ways that I found to convert people when you're doing an offer for the first time, is just to throw a 3-day live event inside of a free container. The benefit of this is, one, it's a great lead magnet. When I first launched the Podcast Profit Lab, we would do, you know, these 3-day events where we said, hey, if you want to figure out, you know, how to create 12 months worth of content, come to this 3-day event and we'll help you have a complete 12-month content calendar at the end of it, completely finished and done. And we would send them into our Facebook group, we would collect the email address, and then we would both get the lead, and then they would show up to this 3-day event. And so what this allowed us to do was 2 to 3 hours a day, we would go and solve a specific problem, and we would pick a problem that came before the thing that we sell, and it allowed us to build up trust. It allowed people to see that we knew what we were talking about, and then we made an offer at the end of it. And so with our first offer being, I'm going to show you how to launch a top 100 podcast, the 3-day event that we threw was all about how to create a 12-month content calendar, because the natural add-on to that is, great, I now have 12 months of content planned out. Where am I going to publish it, right? And we would then say, hey, the best place to publish this is a podcast. And throughout the training, we would say, by the way, podcasts are the best content medium for you to go to. So when it comes to getting to this first 10K a month, if you don't already have existing traffic, if you haven't already sold your offer and done 10K with this offer, you know, we want to make sure that that offer is clear, that it's a very, clear outcome, and you want to make sure it's valuable. And we usually would do this type of method to test it out. So you want to make that freebie that you're giving away, that event, something really tactical. Create some kind of clear outcome for that event, like creating 12 months of content in your calendar. Now, inside of another video, I can go a little bit deeper into what I would do in this stage to get a really clear outcome and offer. But the trick to a clear outcome is just having a really specific person that you're speaking to. It's also worth in this stage, as well as a specific person that you're actually looking at, thinking about a specific problem you solve, and then having a clear end goal that comes with that. And most of the time, you're going to have a really specific and unique way in which you're solving that problem. So, for example, I might say, now I'm helping business owners who, are doing less than 10K a month. My specific problem is you need more credibility and leads. Their clear end goal that I might be delivering is I'll help you to launch a top 100 podcast. Just for context, we don't do this anymore, but this was my previous offer. And the specific and unique way that we're going to do that is that we're going to do it with our launch method that gets you into the top 100 in 28 days, right, in terms of that process. So having something really specific for a person and their individual problem that they need, and having a clear end goal that they walk away with, and doing it in just a unique way, this is the key to having a clear and a really fun outcome that people are going to want to buy. So TLDR, if you're just tuning in and you're like, what the hell is this all about? You want to have a clear offer with a clear outcome tested to a warm audience, and you should be able to do 10K in sales from that. If you can't do 10K in sales from something like this, then you typically find that either you're not getting enough traffic, as in the freebie you're promising isn't good enough, or the offer itself isn't good enough. And most of you will find that once you hit 10K a month, things start to move very quickly from there, but that is breakpoint number 1. Now, breakpoint number 2, this is where a lot of people notice that they have a great offer. They sell it every now and then, people are coming in, maybe they do an event once a month, but what they lack is any consistency in their leads or sales. And now we call this roller coaster revenue. You may experience this yourself. It's basically where day in, day out, you don't really have any consistency when it comes to leads or sales, but every now and then you're like, oh crap, I need to pay and keep the lights on. Let me go do a launch. And then you go and make a bunch of money. And the problem with that is your revenue is about as consistent as gas station sushi at 2 a.m. Or, some very noticeable kebab houses in England, if you're familiar with what those are like. So you obviously want to get a bit more consistent. So the solution here, and this is the primary thing that we help most of our clients with inside of Media Firestorm, our current offer, is actually to build out what we call a primary acquisition channel. And so what we're doing here is we're sort of becoming a little bit more grown up in the business. Rather than just launching and trying to sell to the people that are inside our world, what we're actually looking to do is to consistently bring new people into our world and to sell them, but making sure it's something that happens on a daily and a weekly basis. So my definition for primary acquisition channel is a clear and consistent daily activities which create meaningful results to create leads and sales. And so what you want to typically notice is that for your primary acquisition channel, it's usually not going to be something that's going out to a completely cold audience. So a lot of people, think to begin with when they build their first acquisition channel, oh, I should go and do Facebook ads or YouTube ads, or I should go out and I should start doing, cold acquisition and DMing people on LinkedIn about my offer. What I typically recommend for most people at this stage is to go for a primary acquisition channel that not only gets new leads, but also creates a nurturing process throughout. And this is typically going to be one of those organic style of acquisition channels. It's also cheaper, which means less risk in the beginning. When you have a little bit less liquidity in your business, you don't have as much cash and capital to throw at solving one of your lead gen problems. So some really good examples of this that people typically have done in the past is that you might see people, doing organic on social media or going out and doing networking and in-person events. But what we want to do inside of our primary acquisition channel to get to consistent 30Ks a month is that we want to have a strategy that's bringing us daily leads, and every day we're also selling our core offer. And so for most of you, if you're selling a core offer that's more expensive and you're selling it over the phone, the main thing that you're really looking for here is more sales calls, right? If you've got more calls on the calendar, your revenue is typically going to follow in a cascading fashion. Almost consistently across my entire business, if we have more sales calls that are being booked, our revenue and our cash collected is increasing. So there's two really tactical ways that we help clients to do this at this level. One is that step one, you need to have lead flow, which means that you need to have new business owners joining and coming to you on a consistent basis every day, every week, throughout the time that you're just operating your business. And we want to get to a point at this level where this becomes as automatic as possible. But in the beginning, you're going to have to push this boulder up the hill. And so there's a number of ways that you can generate leads. All a lead really means is that we're looking for somebody that's giving us a way to contact them. So if somebody says, Jamie, here's my email address, here's my phone number, here's my home address, here's where you can reach out to my carrier pigeon. We just need a way to contact them on in any way. That's all we're looking for, a way to contact these leads. And so from a strategic level, what we're going to do is, step one, we want to be growing our leads on a daily basis. And for us, the easiest way to do this is through an email list. A lot of you probably have aspirations or have already started growing your email list. And so this is step number one. You need more leads coming in. Now, the funny thing that I notice with most business owners is a lot of you have already got your head around this. You're like, okay, cool. I need to grow my email list. Now, a funny thing we see with a lot of business owners is that they have usually already wrapped their head around this. They say, oh, cool, I know I need to get leads and I'm growing my email list. But the thing that's stopping most of you is that once you get leads coming into your world, you then completely forget that the whole point of getting a lead in the first place was to advertise to that lead and actually tell them, hey, my name's Jamie, I have this thing for sale, do you want to buy it? And a lot of people are horrendously afraid of marketing to their leads and therefore do not email their leads or reach out to their leads or do any effort really at all to actually contact their leads. So the two things that we do with most of our clients in this, and this is what we learned from quitting social media, is that we wanted to have a way that we could bring in leads and we could sell to leads without having to show up on social media. Now, when it comes to actually growing your list every day, there's two things that we have done in our business that make this very, very effective, that bring us in daily leads, almost to the point now, completely on autopilot with one team member managing the process. And the two things that you need is, one, a compounding lead magnet, and then also consistent marketing. So I want to talk about the lead magnet first, because this is something that so many people overlook. A lot of people, when they start off, or even when they're pretty far ahead in their business, they have a lead magnet that is just not all that compelling. And, you know, I say to people all the time, if you make your lead magnet significantly more valuable and more desirable, the perception of it is something that people would crawl over their dead grandma to get their hands on, your marketing is going to be significantly more successful. Now, to give you an example of this, 18 months ago, when we first started this new business, we were giving away a lead magnet. It was a 3-episode training on how you can get booked on more podcasts. We swapped that lead magnet for a different lead magnet, which is just our free Need a Guest Facebook group, which people go in and they get booked on podcasts completely for free. And people come in as podcasters and post opportunities, and guests come in and comment on those posts to get booked on these shows. So you can literally go in there for free and get booked on countless podcasts. And that's what we gave away as a lead magnet instead of this amazing training that I'd put a lot of time, effort, and energy in. The outcome of that was that we had a 700% increase in leads from the marketing efforts that we had done. And so your lead magnet is really important, because could I have done 7 times as many podcast interviews? Absolutely. But would that have been a lot more effort and energy? Hell yeah. And so first of all, make sure that what you're giving away for a lead magnet is something that people would happily pay money for, let alone be able to get for free. The second thing is you just need to have a way to consistently market. And when we talk about marketing, all we mean is getting in front of new people and getting them interested in becoming a lead. So if you go and speak in front of 100 people at an event, and those 50% of those people give you an email address to be able to contact them after the event, that is successful marketing. And we just need a way to be able to do this consistently every day and every week. Now, for a lot of you who are listening to this, you're probably doing some kind of marketing, but it's maybe not something you love. We see clients come to us all the time who are burnt out on social media. They're posting content every single day. And when we ask them, well, how is it doing when it comes to bringing you leads? Chances are it's not really bringing you a lot of leads. So what we do inside of our Media Firestorm process for clients is help them get booked on 2 high quality podcasts every single week. That way you're speaking to brand new audiences every single week with your dream customers in, rather than being in an echo chamber of speaking to the same people over and over again inside of social media. So these 2 things are what we do to be able to get consistent email list growth. 1, we speak on 2 podcasts every single week, and by creating consistency, it compounds over time. And then we're making sure that what we're promoting on those podcasts is a lead magnet that's going to compound and grow over time. Now, when I say compound and grow over time, I personally really like communities as lead magnets, because once they get to a certain size, they start to snowball and grow on their own. So for example, when we got Need a Guest to 10,000 members inside of our Facebook group, Facebook started sending us 50 fresh leads to the Facebook group for free every single day. And the bigger the group has grown, the more people Facebook sends us when it comes to marketing. The same is true if you use a school community. As the community gets bigger and bigger, you automatically are having leads that are organically finding the community because it's such a good size. So if we go back to breakpoint number 1, where he talked about hosting a 3-day training inside of a community, it's a really good idea for you to use a community lead magnet, because it's something that can start to grow alongside of it. So right now, today, if we stopped doing all outbound marketing and we just had our existing group that we've built as a lead magnet, and that group is going to grow and continue to grow just because of the size it's got to and the organic fashion. And the great thing about the way that we build these groups is that you don't need to post inside of them. And so we very, very intentionally created groups in a way that's community run. And so the people who are posting inside of the community are the ones that create the content. And so, we really don't need to be on social media. We're just accepting people into that group, into that community. It's an awesome way to run it. Now, the second thing, and this is the thing most of you probably need help on in this level, is that maybe you've got existing leads, or maybe you're bringing new leads in already, but you're just not advertising to those leads. You're not reaching out to them. And the thing I say to people all the time is, it doesn't matter how you reach out to leads. You could text them, you could cold call them, you could DM them every single day, you could go up to their living room window and wave a flag on the street outside their garden. But you just need to have a way that you reach out to those leads on a consistent basis. And the more consistent you are with your marketing, the stronger the affiliation and the stronger those touch points are going to lead into a sale. There's a reason when people run TV advertisements that they don't just do it once a week and then they don't do it again. Consistently, you see the same advertisements again and again and again and again. And they do that intentionally, because when you're advertising to your leads, you want to consistently be reaching out to them so that they remember that you exist as a brand. And one of the biggest things at your business at this level is that just not enough people know about you. Most people don't even know that you exist. And so the way that we do this with our clients, and this is the way that I've been running my business for 5+ years, is that rather than creating content on social media or doing any type of content creation, I just spend 15 to 20 minutes every morning and I write a really simple story-based email. They're usually 250 to 350 words long. I talk about, what's going on in my day. If I've just got a new dog, if over the weekend I decided to drink less beer, if I got, some really helpful feedback from my rock climbing instructor, my dog chewed my socks. I just talk about random stories so people are entertained and they build a strong affiliation and connection with me. And at the same time, I do a little advertisement at the end of every email that says, by the way, if you're a business owner and you need to get booked on podcasts and you need to grow your leads, click here and we can work with us. And what this does is one of 2 things. One, it nurtures and connects with these leads. They hear from us every day. They see us in their inbox every day. And even if they don't open those emails, they're still seeing us appear inside of that inbox every single day. And because we focus on story-based emails as opposed to, direct value or here's what we can give you, people, one, they know a little bit more about who we are behind the brand and therefore build strong connections with us as people. But also, a lot of the time, these stories are very entertaining because they're relevant. It's something that happened yesterday or the day before yesterday for you. You write about it in the moment. And so there's a recency to these stories that go out, and they become very relatable in that manner. And I think because of that reason, we've seen this method of connecting with clients and sending, emails out to be very, very effective. And my favorite thing about it is that it just takes 15 or 20 minutes. And so what I do inside of my business is very straightforward. We block out 2 hours a week for doing a couple of interviews. And then every morning, as soon as I get to my desk, I write a 15 to 20 minute email. And if I do nothing else in the business that entire day, our business is growing because we have daily consistent leads coming in because of our lead magnet that we've built and the marketing coming in from the podcast interviews. And at the same time, by sending those emails, we're actually making offers and connecting and nurturing our leads at this level. And that's something that too many of you aren't doing with the leads that are already in your world, let alone new leads that are coming in as well. And so this is a very, very effective methodology, and we call this the primary acquisition channel. Now, one thing people do say to me all the time is, Jamie, oh my gosh, this sounds great, but what if I start emailing every day and people unsubscribe? And the thing I would tell you, and it's really important to understand here, is that if you had a shop in a mall and everybody else opens up their shop every day, and you say, well, I'm only going to open up my shop once a week because every time I open the doors, out of every 10 people that walk in, 9 out of 10 people walk out without buying something, right? So therefore, I'm just going to keep my shop shut, 6 days a week so that, I'm only having 9 people walking out on a Sunday instead of every single day. If somebody told you that, you'd be like, you are batshit crazy. Who taught you business? That's a terrible strategy, right? Because we all know if you're a shop in a mall and you want more customers, you open up more so that more people can come into the store and potentially buy something. And so the one thing I would say to people who say, well, what if people unsubscribe, is that yes, people are going to unsubscribe from your email list. It's a normal thing. It's like people walking back out of your store again. If they came in and weren't interested, you wouldn't shut down your whole store because some people walked out, and you shouldn't not email your list and connect with them consistently every day just because a few of them are going to unsubscribe. So this is really important to understand, because if you do this, 99% of the time when we see clients who aren't doing any regular communication with their leads, and we then get them to communicate with their leads every day in a way that's not spammy, that's not intense, that's more story-based, every single time, bar I think one time we did this, it's meant an increase in sales. And in the example where it didn't work, there was a client who had a real estate offer, and she went on and changed to a completely different model where she was helping people with hair loss. And the reason it didn't work was just there was no women who were suffering from hair loss on her list of realtors. And so that's an example I can think of where it didn't work. But 99% of the time, if you just message your leads daily and you tell them what you do and you engage with them in a fun way, you're probably going to increase sales. So when it comes to this break point, hitting 30K a month, one, it's really about creating that solid primary acquisition channel, usually a channel that is going to be free. Organic is going to work better for you because there's less strain and demand on the business. And what we're looking for is daily leads and a daily selling process where you're advertising your offer, you're getting people onto sales calls every day if you sell over the phone. And the other key thing here, and this is a friction point, is also one-on-one sales. In order for you to hit this level and to exceed it, you need to make sure that your sales process is really strong. You're not going to be outsourcing sales at this level. It's really just going to be you. And so as the business owner, the big advice here is just focus on selling, not coaching. A lot of the time when you're doing sales calls and you're not converting in the early days, it's really just because you're trying to help and coach people rather than just focusing on here's what's in it for you if you buy. And probably the main thing that's going to help you to convert better at this stage is just a better offer, giving people more for less money, giving them less risk, giving them more time, things along the lines of that. Now, for some of you, maybe you're already at the 30K a month point, and then you're scaling from there to try and get to the 100K a month break point. Now, this was a level I got stuck at in my business for the longest time. It actually took me closing my old business, starting a brand new business, getting a business partner who could balance out the areas that I was struggling before we finally made a breakthrough here. And this year, we're aiming to go from where we're on track currently for about 1.2 million a year in revenue. We're looking to scale this year to about 3 million in revenue. That's the goal of what we want to get to. Now, your problem at this level is if you're trying to get from 30K a month to 100K a month, you probably need therapy. That's a joke, but it's also facts too. One of the biggest things that kept me stuck at 300 to 500K a year in annual revenue was my own personal bullshit. A lot of people, they don't have business problems, they have personal problems that manifest in their business. So if you're stuck at that level and you've been stuck at that level for a long time, maybe invest in a therapist. It's probably going to help you get unstuck. I needed to hear that like 11 times before I finally did it, and lo and behold, I've now finally made the breakthrough. But if we want to get a bit more tactical in terms of what you actually need to do to break through, we'll talk about that right now. But just so you guys know and you are aware, it wasn't a lack of knowledge that stopped me getting to 100K a month. I knew 4 years ago what I tactically needed to do to get to 100K a month. What happened was I kept self-sabotaging because of the internal bullshit that was going on. So real talk, that might be what is going on with you in your business. And if it is, I can totally relate. Definitely been there. So the problem at this point, when you're scaling from 30K to 100K, is if you think about what we did at the previous level, we've got this primary acquisition channel. We've probably got a great lead magnet. We've got leads coming in every day in an almost automatic fashion. You're probably not all that involved in actually generating those leads. And you're also having a lot of sales calls coming in and you're getting sales. So you've got some consistency of leads and sales calls with that primary acquisition channel, but you've kind of reached what feels like this natural plateau. You know, your reach of where you're getting in that organic channel is starting to hit some limits, and you might also be hitting some sales capacity issues. So a really good example of this is that when we were primarily using our primary acquisition channel, which was podcast interviews and then also our Facebook group as our lead magnet, we got to the point where we're getting around about 50 to 100 leads a day. We were getting good conversion from those leads. We were emailing the leads, but we weren't really finding an easy path to break through and either increase or double or triple or 5x the amount of leads that were coming into the Facebook group. And with the methodology that we were using in the primary acquisition channel, we weren't really set up with something that was leverageable and scalable. And so a lot of people will tell you, hey, you should have one offer and one sort of acquisition channel until you hit $1 million a year. And I used to say this to people all the time, but what we've actually done in our business to enable us to get to 100K a month was that we added a second acquisition channel, and it was a channel that was more leveraged. And what this does at this stage by creating a secondary leveraged acquisition channel is that it gives you something that with a bit more scalability. And so what I mean by this is that when you install your second acquisition channel, once you get all the dominoes in a line and everything starts to work, you should be able to immediately 5 or 10x that acquisition channel without really any problem apart from just turning a dial. And so let me go through what the definition is, and we can talk about why this might be a great idea for you to install once you're at 30K a month. Now, if you've not got to 30K a month yet, you probably don't have much excess cash, and you probably don't have existing sales coming in. So we really like a primary acquisition channel to bolster you, because while you're building this secondary leverage acquisition channel, it's probably going to take a good 6 to 12 months for it to really start working and converting. And you might have 6 months where it costs you money and doesn't get you any extra sales. And so you need to have the primary acquisition channel giving you the consistency in the business so that you can build out the secondary channel that can be a bit more scalable as you continue to grow. So what is a leveraged acquisition channel? So my definition of this is a leveraged acquisition channel is daily lead generation activities that are going out to cold prospects that can function without you as the business owner, which can be turned up or down with money or people. And so you think about it this way, you know, we basically want something that's going to be bringing us leads consistently every day to cold prospects, people that aren't in our world already, and it's something that can operate without you, the business owner, and it can be turned up or down, either with money or people. So some examples of leverage acquisition channels to help give you a real fundamental example of this would be like paid advertising. Paid advertising primarily brings you leads every day. It's going out to cold people who don't already know you. It functions sort of without the business owner, although you may be involved in some element of it when it comes to content creation, but fundamentally, you're not sat there doing the ads every day. It's probably a team member that's doing it, and it can be turned up or down. In ads, you can turn it up with money. With cold outbound, for example, if you're doing cold calling or cold emails or direct mail to people's houses, you would turn up the leverageability with this with more people. instead of having one outbound rep, you might have 3 or 5 outbound reps that do just as many dials as the first one. Affiliates, instead of having, one affiliate, you might have 10 or 20 affiliates. And the same can be true for organic. You can create significantly more organic content, maybe with a content team. So rather than just one piece of content that's going out, you can maybe have multiple pieces. Now, personally, I really like the first two as a channel for leverage acquisition. I've tried both. I've not had tons of success when it comes to paid ads in the old version of my business, but a lot of the time, one of these channels is going to suit you a little bit better. And we've personally been using cold outbound as one of the ways that we've added our second acquisition channel. Now, it's a little bit of a different stance on this. A lot of people do say, hey, don't add in a secondary channel. I think having one of these secondary channels is really important for a lot of people, mainly because you need a system that can be turned up. When you get to the point where you start to have maybe 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 months, one of the key things that's going to start happening is other things in the business are maybe going to go wrong. For the last 6 months in our business, we've really been focusing on the sales team, getting great sales reps, building out our leadership model, having great team meetings, setting the correct expectations, making sure that we have our customer avatar completely dialed in. There's a lot of things that we did in order to get our sales team to the point where they were actually converting and operating at a level that was sustainable for us to turn up marketing. If you've got you closing at 30%, but sales rep closing at 5 or 10%, there's no point turning up marketing. You've got to get the sales team to that 20 or a 30% level first before you then start turning up the marketing. Otherwise, there's a lot of wastage and it's not really going to work at scale. So this is why a leveraged acquisition channel, in my opinion, is really important, because once you have those other areas of the business dialed in, you really can turn this up 5x. And so as I'm recording this video, this is something that we just did last month. In December, we just had a $100,000 plus revenue month. I think we ended the month on $115,000 in revenue. I think it was $92,350 that we ended up cash collecting. And when we did that in December, the next thing that I did was immediately increased marketing, because all of our sales team ducks had got in a row. We had 2 sales team members. They were performing at the level that we needed to. And I said, fantastic. Our leads are solid. Our sales team is solid. Let's turn up this marketing. And so that's now kicking in on February the 1st. And, probably I'll do another video in a couple of weeks' time sharing the results of what's going on there. And so you need to have this system in place of a more leveraged acquisition channel so that when things start to go right, you can really just turn it up with a dial. So when it came to the activities that we were doing, we've been doing cold outbound alongside our podcast interviews. And the reason that we've done this is that, you still want to keep that primary acquisition channel. And we love interviews because there's so much content of us out there showing our expertise. And that really, really helps, our clients coming in who are cold, who've never heard of us before, to be able to see, I understand Angel and Jamie are on this podcast and not podcast, and they're listening to the content, and it creates a way that they can be nurtured and have, more faith in us. So we want to really have both of those channels in place, but that more leveraged acquisition channel can really be turned up. So, some examples of this is when it comes to, if you're doing podcast interviews, let's say you're doing 2 podcast interviews per week as your primary acquisition channel, a leveraged acquisition channel that you might run in tandem would be running, say, 5 podcast sponsorships per week alongside your interviews. You do the 2 hours per week of interviews, but then you sponsor podcasts, which cost you money instead of time. And then if things start to go well and more leads are coming in, you can then have 25 sponsorships, or you can have 5 sponsorships, but on podcasts that are 10 times the size. And so it's really easy for you to turn the dial on that leverage channel. Another really good example of this is if your primary channel, for example, is SEO organic. One of the things that you could do is run Google-sponsored ads for different keywords. And so obviously this is one of those things where you can pay more money and you can scale over time by sponsoring more of these keywords and getting more traffic that's coming through. And so this is solution number 1, which is really about creating leveraged acquisition, which is really the marketing activities to get more booked calls on the calendar. And so a lot of the time, what I really like inside of this process is that if your primary acquisition channel is podcast interviews that bring you leads, you're creating content every single week. And just if you share that content with all of the leads that are coming in, it's going to nurture them very effectively. The other thing I like about the primary acquisition channel that we recommend is that when you send daily emails, you're also nurturing and converting people on a daily basis, but you're staying connected with them. So if you plug in a secondary, more leveraged acquisition channel, and you start to get really cold people coming into your world, they're going to fall in to that primary acquisition channel as well. You can start sending them the interviews, you can send them those daily emails, and so your first acquisition channel actually helps you to convert better in the secondary acquisition channel, which is another reason that we say to focus on getting that really dialed in first at the 30K a month level before you go on to add the more leveraged acquisition channel. Because when you start going to colder and colder audiences, it becomes very difficult to persuade people to trust you. And this is one of the reasons, by the way, that I'm filming this YouTube video and that we're putting more of our content freely available online, because after we send a bajillion cold emails or we sponsor a bunch of podcasts, if people Google me or Angel's name, we want them to be able to find content like this so that they understand who we are and what we're all about, and they can, get a better vibe of what it is that we're all about. So that's step one, your leveraged acquisition channel at this level. The second thing is that you're going to need more leveraged sales. And this is something not to be underestimated. If we talked about the leveraged acquisition channel potentially taking 6 to 12 months to be able to implement, and realistically, we've spent 7 months implementing our secondary acquisition channel now, and it's still not really dialed in. I think 12 months is very, very realistic for being able to really dial in a full acquisition channel. The same is going to be true of your sales team, 6 to 12 months to actually get this installed and to get them implemented. And again, realistically, depending on how much experience you have and how good and dialed in and how much support you've got, this could take longer than 12 months, because sometimes it takes a lot of reps, a lot of sales reps and a lot of repetitions, reps in two senses, to be able to really figure out what's going wrong and for you to be able to fix and build out a system that makes sense. So for me, leverage sales, my definition of it is sales calls that can happen without you. So these sales calls aren't just happening without you, but they're also still converting at a sustainable level. If you hand off sales calls, but then conversion drops from 30% to 10%, that's not really leveraged. There's a big hole in that bucket and you need to fix it first. And so some things just from a very, very top level that we've been able to implement that might give you a head start on this if you're starting to build your first sales team is, one, make sure that you don't give up all of your sales calls right out the gate. Make sure that you're still taking, I would say in the beginning for your first hire, 60% of the sales calls. When you're doing sales teams for the very first time, one of the really big things that happens is if you give all of your leads to a brand new person and you've never done this before, there's a good chance that you might go from making $40,000 a month to making like $2,000. And that has happened to us for multiple months in a row sometimes. So last year, 2024, in January, we had a sales team issue. We booked over 100 sales calls, but we only converted about $15,000 in cash collected. And we were very, very net negative that month in terms of our overhead and the team that we built. The previous month, we'd done $125,000 cash collected. So we literally were doing 10% of the cash collected that we had done the previous month. And it was really down to the fact that one sales rep was taking all of our calls. And when they dropped in performance, the revenue dropped as well. So in the beginning, for your first rep hire, I would recommend that you still take 60% of the calls, because that's consistent, predictable revenue as you start to build out this more leveraged team. And if you've only got one sales rep and you can do this, I would even recommend you still taking 25%, 30% of the calls, even if they're doing an absolutely phenomenal job, just because that rep can be performing today. And just like we had a rep that went from closing 120 grand one month to less than 12 grand the next month. And so performance can change, and you just want to make sure that you've got some predictability and some safeguards in place. One of the best safeguards you can have in sales is make sure that you are still doing at least some of these calls. So if you have a rep on board, I would still be taking 3 sales calls a day. Block out from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday, to do sales calls. And then you've got from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. to work in the business instead of on the business. The second thing is just clear cultural expectations. This took me way longer longer than I want to admit to get this really right. But when me and my business partner first came together, Angel, my business partner, is this absolutely beautiful person. Her name is Angel. She is an absolute angel. She's, this amazing mom with 3 grown-up kids. She lives like 5 minutes outside of Disneyland, and she's just absolutely adorable. Everybody loves her. She's an absolute sweetheart, and she's got emotional intelligence through the roof, and she just really cares about people on a super deep level. What she's not great at, and she'll tell you this herself, is that she's not very good at the specifics. And what I mean by that is that when we started bringing in on a sales team, when it came to KPIs, metrics, reviewing calls, dialing down on the facts and what's going on, it wasn't her natural strength. She would often lean more into lifting people up emotionally and on a one-to-one level, and would really not do a lot of that stuff. Where on the other hand, I was not really at all into the lovey-dovey, let me just make you feel amazing. And, I was more into the facts and figures and getting straight to the point. What's the KPIs? What's going wrong in the sales calls? Let's fix the problems. It's the difference between, one person being very logical and the other person being more emotional. So what happened in the beginning is that we tried to be a fusion of the two. I tried to be like Angel, and I tried to be this softer, more heart-centered person. You're going to come into the team. You're going to be a part of the family. We're going to take care of you. And we made a lot of efforts to take care of our sales team, even when things were going wrong. The downside with that is that it wasn't our natural style. And so what I mean by that is that Angel was never naturally going to be getting on top of people for KPIs, and I was never naturally going to not do those things. And so what happened was we tried to set this expectation of a merged version of ourselves, and then we would default to who we were as people. And so I would reach out to a sales rep and I'd be like, hey, I noticed that your closing rate had dropped by 5%. Let's take a look at some of your calls. Let's figure out the problem. Let's resolve it. And they sometimes be jarred by that and be like, oh, this is weird, right? Like Jamie's like on me all the time about these different things. And it's really just my natural style of how I manage people. So whatever your style is, the best thing you can do is be really clear about that in the interview process. If you're kind of a dick and you tell people and you yell at people, even if that's not great, be honest about it, right? Tell people exactly who you are and where you're at. Luckily, I'm not a yelly person, but I'm an intense person. Like when you come and work for me in the sales team, I expect performance. I'm very intense. We drive you, we get you focused, and you're only as good as the last week, and we always are going to be trying to figure out what's going wrong in there. And, I tell people that now up front, and we have much better retention and much more clear expectations because what we tell people and my natural methods for coaching people are now very much in alignment. So setting clear cultural expectations that are in alignment with who you are as a person is super critical when you're hiring out for leverage sales. Now, the third thing here is clear client criteria. This is so important. When you go from selling one-to-one as a founder and then hiring out a sales team, one of the biggest things that you'll notice is that you, as the founder that's been running this business for a long time, intuitively can tell who is a right fit and who is a wrong fit. But your reps who are coming into the company for the first time don't understand that. And a lot of the time, what can happen is if you try and get your reps to sell in the same way that you have been selling, they're going to become very confused very quickly. And a confused sales rep is not going to have any conviction or belief that they can help the person because they're really not sure if they can, and they're not going to close deals. So one thing that's really important here is a very clear client criteria and avatar. Here's who we do work with, here's who we don't work with, and here's all the facts and the reasons why. And this is so incredibly important because in the beginning of business, you really are selling to anybody with a pulse on a credit card, right? It's like, hey, are you breathing and do you have money? You're in, right? But as your business starts to grow, you're going to have more clear criterias, more specific criterias of who you want to work with. It's going to allow you to charge higher prices. But this is actually fundamental for a sales team because without this, your rep's going to get confused and they're not going to know how to sell. So very, very important. Now, the other thing that's been really helpful as we scale sales reps in our business, and this might be different to other people. I learned this from one of my mentors, Sean Ray, who helps us run our sales team. Incredible sales mentor if you want to go check him out. He always says this. He says, reps should sell their way and pitch your way. And so what he means by this is that when you have somebody new coming into your company, there's a lot of new variables. They're pitching the product for the first time. That's brand new. They're learning a new product for the first time. That's brand new. And if they're coming from a previous sales role, they probably have some knack and experience with selling. And so if you say to them, I want you to sell my way, pitch my way, and also learn this new product my way, you're giving them 3 completely brand new things to try, and there's no stability or certainty that's going to come in. So one of the best things you can do when you hire reps for the very first time is just give them enough knowledge to be dangerous. And what I mean by that is, like, don't overdo it when it comes to the training. They should already have a natural ability, skill set, and also understanding and experience to be able to know how to sell prospects, as in go through a discovery process, understand the pain, create a gap, and be able to actually sell people on what the outcome is. But a lot of the time, you don't need to get them to do that in a specific way. There may be some high-level things you want to get them to do every time, set expectations for the call, transition into an offer, maybe, do a temperature check to check if they are sold or if there's any objections to flush out. But by and large, you probably want to get them to sell their way. And then when it comes to the pitch portion, hey, sounds like we can really help you. Is it okay if I tell you about what we do inside of our program and process? You want the rep to pitch your way. The reason we do this is that when you pitch your way, they're going to be talking about the product, and you're going to be drilling them on how to pitch your product in the same way every single time. That's going to create consistency on boarding. It's going to create consistency in the sales process, and it also gives you a jumping off point to be able to coach and guide them to be able to convert more customers. So very, very powerful way to actually do this with the leverage sales team. Now, the final and arguably most important thing that you need to understand before you start hiring out sales reps is that if you get this one thing wrong, you will not be able to hold down a rep at all. And this is literally the only thing reps care about if it's not there. So you ever heard the saying where someone's like, everything is really important until your health declines, and then only one thing is important? Well, this is kind of like sales reps with their calendar. If you do not have enough calls on the calendar, then reps will not stay. And so before you hire a rep, it's really important that you should be able to consistently fill their calendar with a minimum of 4 calls per day, which means you probably need to be booking 6 to 7 calls a day before you hire a rep. So the new rep has 4 calls a day, you do 3 calls a day, and then you've got a total of 7 calls every day that are happening for your business. And that's a tall order for most, and so you need to often up marketing before you get to the point for hiring your first rep. This is really important. If you don't have this and you don't have this consistently, you will keep losing reps left, right, and center, and you're not going to have any stability in your business. Don't make that mistake. Make sure you've got consistency. The other thing that is really important is before you hire a rep, you need to make sure that you are converting your calls at 25 to 30% plus first. The reason this is so important is if you can't close deals at 25 or 30%, you've got no business coaching your reps on how to do that high-level performance. And 2, if you can't get this as the founder of the business, it usually means there's a fundamental pitch problem or maybe an offer problem that needs to be addressed. So that's everything that we've learned on this process of quitting social media and finally crossing over the 100K a month point 18 months later. Again, for full transparency, we're not currently consistently at 100K months. We've had 2 100K months so far in the business. We've crossed over $1 million in revenue in the business in the last 18 months. And now as we're up in marketing, I'll keep you posted on how things are going. But whatever those breakpoints are, whether you're hitting at 10K a month, you're hitting 30K a month, or you're scaling past the 30K a month up to 100K a month, really focus in on those 3 key things. 1, if you're under 10K a month, have a clear and concise outcome and offer. What are you getting and what's the offer that's included? If you're at that break point of hitting just below and you're aiming to get to hit 30K a month, the really important thing is a dialed in primary acquisition channel. Are you getting leads every day? And are you selling to those leads every day? That needs to happen for that primary acquisition channel. We do this with podcast interviews and a great free lead magnet in our Facebook group and daily emails to our prospects. And then breakpoint number 3, once you've scaled to 30K a month consistently and your primary acquisition channel is in place, you then want to add in a leveraged acquisition channel, something that can be turned up like paid ads, cold outbound, affiliates, something along those lines. And you want to run it in tandem to your primary acquisition channel so you've got enough leads coming in. And once you've consistently got 5, 6 leads coming in every single day onto the sales calendar, that's when you can add in your leverage sales team. So I hope you found this video useful. If this was useful and you want to hear more content about growing business, getting booked on podcasts, and generally just getting to where you want to go and transforming your business, please just drop us a like, subscribe to this video. I hope it's valuable. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to learn more about what we do, or maybe just hear about us in our daily emails, feel free to go to our free Facebook group, Need a Guest on Facebook. You can also go to needaguest.com if you want to find out more information there. Have a great day. Appreciate you guys. Hope this is valuable. See you on the next one.